Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Now that my two obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And today we're going to talk about the biggest piece of news I've seen in YouTube fitness in a while. Everyone's talking about it. A lot of people have asked me to cover it, and that's that Jeff Cavaliere, aka Athlean-X, has actually revealed his stats and taken all his measurements on camera. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. And a lot of people have asked things of like, does this mean he's not natty? What does all this mean, Jason? And how far off were your predictions from what he is? He's actually bigger than I thought he was. And people are going to say like, what? How can you say that? I'm not being a dick. I'm being objective. I've been around the iron game a couple of decades. Generally speaking, guys who are under 10% body fat, people tend to overshoot their body weight. In other words, there's a lot of 170 and 160 pound guys out there who people think are 190, 200, things like that when they're really not. And it's because they're just that peeled, they're that lean that people think that they're really big. And then when you get guys who are at 20% body fat, people will oftentimes tend to way undershoot the amount of muscle they have. Like people will underguess their lean mass by like 20, 25 pounds when you get up to higher body fats. So people who are 20% body fat, they probably have 20 to 25 pounds more muscle than you think they do when you just glance at them on a camera or a picture. And guys who are under 10%, they probably have about 20 pounds less than you think they do. And that's just the reality of it. So I actually undershot him a little bit because he stays so lean and because he doesn't have any thickness, like his front to back, he just disappears. He's got that, looks like a ironing board when he turns to the side. He looked like he was all bicep and delts. And so for me, and I also undershot his height, which brings the numbers down. I predicted, just as a guess before the video, before he took measurements, I was going to say he's about 5'8", about 165, probably 7.5, maybe 8% body fat. That's what I was going to guess. And I think that's a reasonable estimate. Now, however, it turned out he's a couple inches taller than I thought. He's actually like 2.5 inches taller than I thought. Could that make up the 10 pounds difference? Yeah. So I wasn't really off so much because I didn't know his height. But, you've got to keep in mind, people say, how could you guess 165? Because a lot of people guess him over 200 or like 195. And it's like, no, because guys, he's extremely lean and his biceps are overdeveloped proportionate to his size, or his by far his biggest muscle. And stuff like his chest and things just aren't there. And he has a fairly small frame. So he has a lighter frame, and he addressed that in the video, the lighter frame. And so, yeah, I did shoot him way under that. He's not a big guy. Because it turns out he's like 5'10 and a half, 175, and he measured himself at 5.8% body fat with the calipers. Now, I think he's fatter than that. And I don't mean that as a disrespectful, because I'm sorry, 5% body fat year round, you wouldn't be able to get an erection. Generally speaking, people who are at 5% body fat who aren't injecting exogenous testosterone, because I've known enough natural bodybuilders, they lose their sex drive and they lose their sex function at that point. And sometimes it takes them a month or longer to get it back after they do bodybuilding shows. I'm not going to name names. I've talked to at least one other YouTuber who gets down to the 5% body fat range for shows years ago, and we talked about it, and he had said a problem is that after every show, he couldn't get an erection or have sex with his girlfriend for like a month after the show. And that's normal. And that's one of the things I tell guys, getting that lean is really stupid. I mean, guys will say silly stuff like, oh, I want to get ripped to get girls. I'm like, well, what are you going to do with them? Are you going to have Viagra? Are you going to inject testosterone? Because you start talking 5% body fat, you're going to lose your interest in sex anyways. Your sex drive goes away. Your ability to get an erection goes away. So you're not really going to care. It's kind of silly to think you're going to do something to get girls that's going to make you lose interest in girls and lose your ability to even perform. It doesn't make any sense. It's just stupid. I was going to put him in the 7 to 8% range. So again, we come back to that point though of calipers are not the most accurate measurement. Like I've been doing mine with DEXA scans, and I have a DEXA scan coming up this next month, and we'll see where I'm at. My goal was to be 15% on a DEXA scan by the end of the year. We'll see where I'm at. Because I'm still going to be short at the end of the year. When I do it, it might be 16% or whatever. I'll be happy with that. DEXA scans tend to be a little more accurate than calipers, and they usually put you a couple percentages higher. So realistically speaking, other scans might have put him slightly higher, but even then, The guy is obviously at an extremely low body fat. He stays there year round, right? He stays ripped year round, and as he said, it's part of his brand, Athlean-X. It's his brand. Okay, fair enough. Now, some people are going to say, well, what about the Natty thing? Well, if we start plugging in fat-free mass index, and I know that's a big point of contention, people say, well, that's not accurate. Actually, I think it pretty much is. I mean, in all honesty, guys who are legitimately natural, who could probably go through WADA testing. I don't mean these natural bodybuilding show testing, because anyone with 2 brain cells to rub together can pass a natural bodybuilding drug test. Okay, if you have a calculator, and since we all have smartphones now with a pocket calculator, you have every tool available to you to pass a drug test. You have a calculator. You can do math. You can look at a natural bodybuilding show and be like, well, if I come off of this drug, I should come up clean on the urine test in 14 days. This drug, I need 72 hours. Let me go to my calendar and use my calculator. It's not that difficult, right? Because you know you're going to be tested on what day. So you could basically be blasting drugs 10 months out of the year and still pass and come clean for a couple months every year and compete in natural bodybuilding shows. It's not really a big deal. You talk about guys who can pass WADA testing who get under 10% body fat, we're not talking about higher, who get under 10% body fat and still have a fat-free mass index of over 25, yeah, that's a big red flag. His fat-free mass index is like 23, okay? In other words, Jeff could probably gain, if his body fat measurement is accurate, and I think he's higher, so his fat-free mass index is going to be lower, but assuming his measurement is accurate, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt and assume his caliper measurement is accurate, he could still put on another 7 or 8 pounds of muscle mass at his current size and frame before he would become suspect of being drug big. In other words, Jeff is not a big guy. I mean, people have this idea because the guy's really ripped and because he's got good arms that he's jacked, he's huge. He's really not. This is a lighter frame guy who's not that big. He's 175 pounds at 5'10 and a half. Okay, that's not massive. That's not a guy who you look at and say, oh, he's got to be blasting a bunch of drugs. Okay, you've got to be kidding me. And no, I'm not talking about comparing him to current IFBB pros, because we know current IFBB pros use 20 to 30 times as many drugs as the average drug user does on average, guys who are just using stuff at your gym. So that's not even comparable. So we're not even talking about comparing him to that. But I mean, at 5'10 and a half, if he was blasting gear for size purposes, I wouldn't expect him to be 175. He would be 190, 200, something in that range if he was using a hefty amount of drugs. So we kind of get into that question of, could he be using anything to help maintain his leanness and keep his function at his age? And now that's a better topic. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's absolutely certain, but if you were to ask me, when I look at that guy and I look at his age and the fact that he stays as lean as he does year round, he has money, he has access to doctors, so that doesn't mean he's doing anything illegal if he does. I would almost be willing to bet that the guy is probably on at least a prescription, totally legal, TRT and maybe HGH, right? From longevity doctors. It's not like that's illegal. It's not like that's immoral. And it would help his brand enormously. Would that be an enormous benefit to a guy like him who is probably clearing 7 figures with what he's doing to dish out $500 a month, $1,000 a month, whatever, to a longevity doctor to help him with that stuff that would help him maintain his sex function at that body fat, because that is going to go away, would help him maintain the leanness easier, keep his energy and everything up, keep his vigor, and a little bit of TRT and a little bit of pharmaceutical grade growth go a hell of a long way for guys who are trying to stay leaner like that. It's absolutely beneficial, and a lot of people are calling him, oh, he's got to be using Primo and Trent. It's like, no, I don't think that he is. This is a wealthy guy. He's making a lot of money with his brand. I promise you, a guy like Jeff is not putting drugs in his body off of the street. Okay, I can't envision a guy making what he makes, who is concerned about his health the way that he has, who's marketing his brand, doing that. That sort of real lean look that he maintains, that is not a Trenbolone look. All right, people need to understand that. I don't look at Jeff and say that guy's on trend. That's not what I don't see that. He doesn't have that look. That looks like an older, middle-aged guy who trains really hard, who probably tracks his calories meticulously, eats a lot of protein, and is most likely on those others, because that is kind of that look. That pharmaceutical grade growth prescribed by a doctor does help kind of give you that kind of that shrink wrapped look where the skin just kind of clings to the muscles, sticks to the muscles like that. That's very much like the FDA HGH look. And am I saying he's certainly on that? No, that's not a certainty. But if you were to ask me in my opinion, what would a guy with his look, his age, his stats, and his financial income and connections, what would they most likely use? That would be my educated guess. But don't take that to the bank. I don't want people to think that I'm saying, oh, he has to be doing that, because that's not the case. All right, that's not something that you could say with certainty. But what I did think was interesting is a little side caveat. He did point something out as far as his brand goes, that he said he doesn't care what your stats are, right? He doesn't care what your stats are. That wherever you are right now, if you do any one of these three things, your body will probably look better. If you either get stronger, gain muscle, or get leaner, you will look better than you look right now. And that's something he markets. And I mean, truth be told, if you're chasing the whole looks thing, he's right. He is right. He's absolutely right. Hell, I got people telling me, Jason, you look a hell of a lot better now that you've dropped a ton of body fat from being the fat powerlifter look. And yeah, I'm still cutting. I mean, he's right. We all know that. Everyone knows that. If you gain muscle, gain strength, or get leaner, you're probably going to have a better looking body than you have right now, irrespective of where you are in your journey. And he did make that little side note, and I do have to agree with that. That was a point of his video. He's right on that. I don't think anyone can argue against those points. I think that's a reasonable assessment. So people wanted to know my opinion on his stats, what's going on. So there you have it. So I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.